Welcome to NFL Nexus, the show that breaks down the biggest stories in the league. Today, we are diving deep into a franchise that is absolutely at a tipping point, the Indianapolis Colts. I mean, think about it. Just a few months ago, this team looked like a real contender, and now they are staring into the abyss, facing a single decision that could honestly define the next 10 years for them. And it all revolves around one guy who is supposed to be their savior.
So let me ask you this. Can you even imagine drafting a quarterback 4th overall, telling everyone he's the future, and then not even a full year later, you're making calls trying to trade him away? It sounds like something you'd do in a video game, right? But no, this is the shocking, jaw-dropping reality for the Indianapolis Colts and their young quarterback, Anthony Richardson. The news that the team and Richardson have mutually agreed to look for a trade, well, it sent a massive shockwave through the entire league. And it leaves us with one burning question. How in the world did it come to this?
You know, putting a player you invested that much draft capital in on the trade block, that's not just a roster move. That is a massive red flag. It signals something is deeply, deeply wrong inside that building. This isn't just about shuffling players around. No, this is a story about hope that was sky high, a tenure that was just tragically short and filled with injuries, and a front office that now has its back completely against the wall, forced to do the one thing they probably thought was unthinkable.
So what exactly went wrong? Well, Richardson's time in Indianapolis was kind of like a perfect storm of bad luck. First, the injuries just wouldn't let him stay on the field. But the real nail in the coffin? Losing the starting quarterback job to Daniel Jones right out of the gate in training camp. And the result of all that? He only played in 2 games. 2. So now he's basically a ghost on the trade market. You have this player with all the raw talent in the world, but there's almost no recent game film for other teams to look at. And that, right there, puts the Colts in a very, very tough spot to negotiate.
Okay, so to really get why Richardson is even on the block, we have to rewind the tape and look at the absolute implosion that happened before this. The Colts' 2025 season wasn't just some up-and-down roller coaster. No, it was a tale of 2 completely different teams. It was a true Jekyll and Hyde performance that saw them go from looking like world beaters to, well, the bottom of the barrel, all in the span of just a couple of months.
Just look at this timeline. I mean, it is almost impossible to believe this is the same football team. For the first 8 weeks of the season, the Colts were on fire. They were the talk of the entire NFL. They're sitting at 7-1, their offense looks unstoppable, and the media is basically crowning them as a legit Super Bowl contender. If you're a Colts fan at that moment, you're feeling incredible, you're probably looking at playoff tickets, dreaming about a parade, and then the free fall. They lost 8 of their next 9 games. It was a complete, total, epic meltdown that left everyone from the owner to the fans just scratching their heads and looking for answers. And when you have an implosion that bad, it forces your front office to make some really drastic moves.
So what in the world caused a collapse of that magnitude? Well, a huge part of the answer could be found in this one single number. $202 million. That is the absolutely staggering amount of money the Colts committed to just 2 guys in free agency, re-signing their quarterback, Daniel Jones, and their wide receiver, Alec Pierce. You see, after that hot 7-1 start, the front office basically fell into a trap. They doubled down on the 2 players they thought were the reason for all that success. But by tying up that much of their salary cap in just 2 contracts, they put themselves in a financial straitjacket. It created a massive opportunity cost that would end up gutting the rest of their roster.
And here you can see it. This is the brutal, brutal consequence of that massive spending spree. That $202 million meant they just couldn't afford to keep the rest of their core players. They traded away their best, most reliable receiver, Michael Pittman Jr. They traded away Zaire Franklin, who wasn't just a great linebacker, he was the vocal leader, the emotional heartbeat of that defense. And then they just had to sit and watch as their starting pass rusher, Kwity Paye, and their veteran right tackle, Braden Smith, walked right out the door in free agency for absolutely nothing. You see, losing players like this isn't just about losing numbers on a stat sheet, it's about ripping the heart and soul right out of your locker room. 4 key starters, gone, just like that, leaving huge, gaping holes all over the field.
So what does that kind of talent drain look like on paper? Well, here you go. Pro Football Focus, or PFF, one of the most respected analytic sites out there, dropped the Colts all the way down to 21st in their post-free agency power rankings. Now, a ranking like that's not just saying you're average. It's a huge flashing red sign that, in the eyes of the experts, your team took a major step backward. The roster is weaker, the depth is gone, and the road back to being a contender is looking really, really cloudy. And PFF's analysis pointed to one glaring, massive weakness above everything else. This team is now absolutely desperate for a pass rush.
Okay, so the Colts have no salary cap space left to sign a big-name free agent. So what are they left with?
They have one truly valuable asset they can use to try and fix that pass rush problem: Anthony Richardson. This brings the front office to a fork in the road. There are two potential paths, two very different trade scenarios that have been outlined by sources around the league, and each one of them represents a totally different strategy, with its own unique set of risks and rewards.
The first option, and maybe the more sensible one, is a potential deal with the Cleveland Browns. For what feels like an eternity, the Browns have been stuck in quarterback purgatory, just searching for a stable, long-term answer. So for a team like them, a high upside talent like Richardson is a pretty low-risk gamble that could have a massive payoff. They can bring him in, let him sit and develop behind their starter, and just see if they can unlock that potential that made him a top 5 pick in the first place.
So here's the basic framework of what the deal would look like. The Colts would send Anthony Richardson and a future 5th-round pick over to Cleveland. In return, they get that edge rusher they so desperately need, Alex Wright. Now, for the Browns, this deal makes a ton of sense financially. Richardson's rookie contract has a tiny cap hit, which is gold in the NFL. At the same time, trading away Alex Wright would clear his $33 million contract off their books, which frees up a ton of valuable cap space. And as we all know, cap space is the ultimate currency for building a roster.
So what exactly would the Colts be getting in Alex Wright? Well, he's young, he's only 25, and he just came off a career year with 5.5 sacks. PFF graded him out as the 19th best edge rusher in the entire league, which means he would be an immediate and significant upgrade for that Colts defense. But, and this is a big but, there is one major question mark here. It's what we call the Myles Garrett effect. Wright has spent his career playing on the opposite side of a generational talent, a superstar who demands double teams on almost every play. So the big million-dollar question is, can he be just as good when he's the #1 guy, when offenses are specifically game planning to stop him? That's the calculated risk you have to take.
Okay, so if the Alex Wright trade is the safe, sensible option, then this second path is a total roll of the dice. This is the go big or go home move. This is a trade that involves a younger player with absolutely tantalizing physical gifts, but also some really serious red flags, especially with his injury history. Let's be honest, this is the kind of trade that could either make a GM look like a genius or get him fired.
So the second scenario involves the Atlanta Falcons. The Colts would package Richardson with a late-round pick and send him to Atlanta for a young defensive end, Zach Harrison. For the Falcons, this is almost a no-brainer. It gives them a super low-cost lottery ticket at quarterback to develop behind their starter, Tua Tagovailoa. And because Harrison is still on his cheap, cost-controlled rookie contract, this trade would barely make a dent in their salary cap. And in today's NFL, getting talented young players on those cheap rookie deals, well, that's the holy grail of team building.
So who is this Zach Harrison guy? Well, physically, he is a mountain of a man who can move with the speed of a much smaller player. At 6'5", 270 pounds, he has every single physical tool you could ever dream of in a pass rusher. And when he was healthy last season, man, he showed flashes of being truly dominant, racking up 4.5 sacks in just 7 games. But that's the whole problem. He only played 7 games before a knee injury shut him down for the year. The talent is absolutely undeniable, but so is the injury risk. So the question for Colts GM Chris Ballard is this: is he willing to bet his entire career on a player who might be one bad step away from being a bust?
All right, so we have looked at the two main trade scenarios from the Colts' point of view. But what if there's a third option, a dark horse candidate that not many people are talking about? Well, a recent report from a really well-respected NFL insider just threw a brand new name into the mix, and honestly, it's a surprising one that makes a whole lot of sense when you start to dig into it.
Green Bay, I bet, brings him in. That's a direct quote from an anonymous but active NFL general manager. So this isn't just some talking head on TV speculating. This is coming from someone who's actually in the trenches, making deals in the league's player market. This GM, who was talking to insider Jason LaCamfora, flat out predicted that the Green Bay Packers would be the team that ends up with Richardson. Now you have to wonder about the motivation here. Is this a rival GM just trying to drive up the price for the Colts? Or is it a genuine reflection of the real chatter that's happening behind the scenes? Either way, it's a fascinating twist.
And the logic behind this potential trade, it's really solid. First, the Packers have a very clear need. They just lost their backup quarterback, Malik Willis, in free agency, which leaves a big hole on their depth chart. Second, Richardson's profile is a perfect fit for them. He's young, he's athletic, and he could just sit and learn in a great, stable organization without any pressure to play right away. And third, the cost to get him would likely be pretty low, making him the perfect low-risk, high-reward reclamation project.
Now, of course, it's not a perfect idea. The Packers would have to be comfortable with his injury history, but for the potential reward, it's a gamble a smart team like Green Bay might be willing to make. So, what does this all really mean for the Indianapolis Colts? Let's just step back for a second and look at the whole messy picture. They are financially chained to a quarterback in Daniel Jones, who is a massive question mark himself, coming off a brutal Achilles injury. That financial commitment forced them to tear down a huge part of their roster, and now they're trying to trade away the guy who was supposed to be their future just to plug one of the many holes they created themselves. The Colts are basically trapped in a vicious cycle of their own making, forced to trade away their future to pay for the mistakes of their past.
This is the razor's edge the Colts are walking right now. This one single offseason gamble is going to define their future for years to come. On one side, you have the hope, the Hollywood ending. They trade Richardson for an impact pass rusher. That player completely transforms their defense. Daniel Jones comes back and looks like his old self, and boom, the Colts are right back in the Super Bowl conversation. But on the other side, you have the risk, the potential Greek tragedy. The player they trade for is a bust, Jones never looks the same after his injury, and the team is left with these massive, bloated contracts, no young quarterback, and no clear path forward except for a long, painful rebuild.
This one decision could seriously define the next 5 years for this entire franchise. So is this a brilliant reset, a really shrewd move to salvage a bad situation, or are they just compounding one mistake with another, digging a hole that's going to take them years to climb out of? If you ask me, I think the Alex Wright trade is the smarter, safer play. It's not flashy, but it gives them a solid, reliable answer to their biggest need. But hey, that's just my opinion, and I can definitely see the argument for swinging for the fences with a talent like Zach Harrison.
But now I really want to know what you think. Head down to the comments section right now. If you're on Team Right and you think the Colts should make the safe play, go ahead and hit that like button. But if you think they should gamble on Zach Harrison's massive upside, tell me why in the comments. And of course, if you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure you subscribe to NFL Nexus for more deep dives into the biggest stories around the league.
And while you're doing that, if you're looking for a really cool way to support the channel, we've actually created a new line of NFL coloring books. They are perfect for the young fans in your life, your kids, your grandkids, or hey, even for any adults who just want to unwind and show some team pride. You can find them by using the QR code right there on your screen or by clicking the link down in the description below. Your support is truly what allows us to keep making content just like this. Thanks so much for watching.